special guest today is Congressman Guy Reschenthaler from Peters Township and the 14th Congressional District. Congressman, always good to be with you. I do appreciate it.
Likewise, John. Thanks for having me on.
My understanding is this is your first interview since the local TV interview since the events of January 6th. So I do want to ask you about that event in particular. Congressman, where were you when there was this assault on the Capitol building in Washington?
I was in the Capitol building actually when it happened.
You were in the building?
I was.
And did you see anything? What went on?
Yeah, it was unfortunate what happened on the 6th, and I condemned it that day. Actually, while it was occurring, I condemned it on social media. But I want to be clear about something. I condemned it that day. I also condemned all the political violence that we saw throughout the summer and the fall, whether it be in Portland, Seattle, Kenosha, you name it. There's been a lot of consistency for me in particular. Where there hasn't been consistency is from the Democrats. The Democrats, you'll notice, John, will only condemn political violence when it suits their political narrative.
Well, I don't want to really focus on the Democrats. I was more interested on your personal story and what you would share with us about it. And I realize you don't have to share anything if you don't want to, but can you describe what went through your mind? You said you were in the Capitol building. Were you on the House floor? Did they move you out of the House floor? What exactly happened to you?
Well, John, I'm not looking back. I'm looking forward right now. And I can tell you that consistently I've called out and condemned political violence. I think it was unacceptable what happened on the 6th. I also think it was unacceptable that there was an autonomous zone that was established in Seattle, that rioters and looters literally burned Portland for weeks on end. And of course, what happened in Kenosha and elsewhere. So I think any political violence needs to be condemned immediately. And I wish my colleagues across the aisle had the same consistency that I've had this entire time.
Well, all right, let's refer again to the assault on the Capitol building, Congressman. You've condemned it, and you're right. I did see a tweet from you that day condemning that particular assault and violence. Do you think that former President Trump, is in any way responsible for what happened, since he gave a speech and encouraged people to go to the Capitol building?
I think that what happened that day on the 6th is unacceptable. It's un-American. And again, I've condemned it right away. I think that it's unacceptable what happened, just like it was unacceptable what we saw during the summer and the fall with the rioting and looting, which again, my colleagues across the aisle never condemn that. They'll only condemn violence when it suits their narrative. And that's really what's troubling about what happened.
Yeah, but I asked you about President Trump. Do you think President Trump bears any responsibility at all for what happened at the Capitol?
The people that are responsible for what happened at the Capitol are the 300 some criminals that broke into the Capitol building that day. They're the ones that broke the law. Again, I have been incredibly consistent condemning political violence. I condemned it on the 6th, and I condemned it all summer and all fall, as you saw.
So you're not holding President Trump responsible in any way for what happened that day?
The people that are responsible for what happened are the 300 some criminals that broke into the Capitol building that day. Those are the individuals that bear responsibility. Just like the people that were burning down Kenosha and Portland and Seattle are also responsible for that political violence as well.
On that day, during the president's speech to his supporters, in which he did encourage them to come to the Capitol building, you tweeted that he was the best president since Abraham Lincoln. And you tweeted that in the middle of this speech. Do you really believe that Donald Trump is the best president since Abraham Lincoln, better than Ronald Reagan?
Let's look at what President Trump accomplished. We had the most successful economy, a red hot economy during his presidency. We had no new foreign engagements, which is something that no president since Eisenhower has been able to accomplish, making sure that we don't go into foreign engagements. Also, you've had criminal justice reform that has taken place. You had a peace deal, a monumental peace deal that took place in Israel. Had President Trump been a Democrat, he would have received at least one Nobel Peace Prize. President Trump's platform is incredible, and especially was incredible for the men and women of Southwestern Pennsylvania. So I stand behind the Trump presidency, and I think he was an incredible president, and history will judge him as such.
The best president, you said, since Abraham Lincoln.
If you look at his record, it's incredible, and history will judge him as so.
Well, let me ask you about the issue on January 6th, which of course was the whole question of certifying Pennsylvania's votes. You voted, along with some of your other colleagues, against certifying the votes of Pennsylvania. Mind you, these are the same ballots that elected you to the Congress. They also elected 2 out of 3 statewide officers from the Republican Party as well. Do you really believe that the votes of Pennsylvania on November 3rd are somehow corrupt or illegitimate?
2 quick points, John. First, that was a symbolic vote. Everybody knew that vote was not going to overturn the results of the election. That was a symbolic vote to put the Pennsylvania Supreme Court on notice that they cannot usurp the power of the Pennsylvania General Assembly. That's the first point. Second point is this. The Democrats have taken the same exact votes every time a Republican has won the White House since 1988. In fact, members of House leadership, Democrat House leadership, took the same vote in 2016.
But there were never the number of members of Congress who voted as there was in this particular vote on January 6th, nor were there the senators.
There in 2004, yes, the Senate did object to the state of Ohio. So that vote was a symbolic vote to put the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, the highly partisan Supreme Court, on notice. They cannot usurp the power of the General Assembly, which is actually unconstitutional with my reading of the Constitution. Additionally, the entire story should be portrayed to show that the Democrats have taken the same exact vote literally every time a Republican has won the White House since 1988.
Later in January, you voted against the impeachment of Donald Trump, and I can certainly understand that if you believe he's the best president since Abraham Lincoln. I guess the question is accountability. Should the president be held accountable in any way, shape, or form for what happened on January 6th?
Joe Biden talks a lot about unity. The way to unify a country is not to impeach Donald Trump and, by extension, the 75 million Americans who voted for him. Let's look forward. Let's work together. Let's accomplish things. Let's not look retroactively at what happened in the past and further divide this country.
Well, speaking of Joe Biden, do you believe he is the legitimate president of the United States?
Joe Biden is the president of the United States. We need to be very concerned about that because Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have declared a war on working class Americans. Remember, Barack Obama and Joe Biden declared war on coal to detrimental effect. Biden and Harris have declared a war on oil and natural gas.
They, of course, would dispute that. And in fact, the president has said again that he is not banning fracking, for example, in your district or any parts of the country or Pennsylvania. And he said it repeatedly throughout the campaign. But I understand the policy differences on energy.
Well, therein lies the problem, John. He said that he wasn't going to ban fracking, but his executive orders actually did ban fracking. Now, you might say that they banned on federal land, which, of course, in southwestern Pennsylvania, we don't have a lot of. But canceling the Keystone XL pipeline clearly is a war on oil and gas. It's a problem. And with the permitting with oil and gas and other projects, it is going to put a damper on the cracker plant. So Joe Biden can say that he's not against fracking all he wants. Ask the steam fitter that is worried about his job at the cracker plant. Ask the laborer who is going to work on those pipelines. Clearly to them, when they're losing their jobs, they're in Joe Biden's war on natural gas.
Let me ask you about how you mentioned the president has said he wants to try to bring people together. And he did have that meeting yesterday with 10 Republican senators. Do you think it's possible to find compromise with the president on issues? And would you point to any particular issues that you hope we can find compromise on?
Well, Joe, I first off will work with John. I will work with anybody. Joe Biden being in the White House, I'm going to focus on criminal justice reform, just as I always had, even when I was in the state Senate. There are items that we can work on together. I look forward to doing that, just like I did as a freshman in the minority in the House, where I still was able to get 4 bills passed. I will say this, though. if Joe Biden is going to go after jobs in southwestern Pennsylvania, if he's going to go after the jobs of the blue collar worker, I'm going to fight him on that. Of course, I'm going to represent my district.
I guess I was looking to see, you said criminal justice reform. Are there any other specific issues where you think there may be common ground that you can work on with this administration?
There's going to be a myriad of issues that we can work on. And again, I have a reputation for being able to work with both sides. My track record proves that out. The fact that I was able to get 4 bills passed as a freshman in the minority party bears that out. Criminal justice reform just happens to be my #1 interest in what we can move forward with a Biden presidency.
A final question, Congressman. A lot of folks that I talk to keep raising your name as somebody who might be a really good candidate for the Republicans to nominate for the United States Senate next year when Senator Pat Toomey steps down. Have you given it any further thought? Is this something that might be on your list, even if you haven't made up a definitive your mind yet?
Well, John, I'm flattered that you would bring it up, but I'm very happy in the House. But of course, I keep all options open.
And one of those options could be to run for the U.S. Senate?
Hey, I don't take any options off the table, but I'm very happy in the House, John.
Well, you know I had to try, Guy.
I know. I'm not John. I'm not being cute here. Seriously, that is the answer. I'm keeping all options on the open, but I'm very happy in the House.
Well, Congressman Guy Reschenthaler, it's always a great pleasure to talk to you, sir. Thank you very much for your time today. I do appreciate it.
Hey, thanks, John. Thank you. Take care.
We have this nor'easter moving off the East Coast. That's going to continue to be the case to get those snow showers on the back edge of this that